Hello everybody, today is finally the day. Halloween Horror Nights 2023, also known as Halloween Horror Nights 32. We finally have all confirmed, revealed houses for the 10 haunted houses coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year. We also have all 5 scare zones and we have the shows. So today we're going to go through all that information. We're going to show you all the houses, all the scare zones. We're going to tell you what to expect. We're also going to go through our final speculation map that's going to show you where all the houses and all the scare zones are physically going to be located in the park. So if you're like us and you are hyped and excited about Halloween Horror Nights 32, then stay tuned because this episode is going to be awesome. Alright, let's get started. Halloween Horror Nights this year has actually been extended. It's actually September 1st through November 4th for the first time ever. It was originally supposed to end October 31st, but they actually changed the dates not too long ago. So be sure to check out the official website for more information on those dates and tickets available. Now, as I said, all 10 houses, all 5 scare zones and the shows, we're going to cover those all today. I do want to point out we did a video just yesterday where we actually did a construction update on all of the houses, all the scare zones. We went around the entire property, Universal Studios here in Orlando, and took a look at the construction, what was going on, and that actually helped us figure out our latest speculation map. While we were walking around the park, we sort of speculated and did some things in that video. Since then, we've even updated it again based on more information that we've gotten and as we thought more about what we actually saw in the park. So you're going to want to check out that episode for all the construction updates. This episode is going to be for all the actual houses and scare zones and our sort of final speculation map. Maybe we'll have one more, we'll see, but I think this one's going to be the final. One of the reasons why we like to talk about the locations in the park is because those usually aren't final. Those usually are still in speculation. They don't release that information as far as where the houses are going to be. Because knowing the locations of where these houses and scare zones are in the parks actually helps you plan better. Because if you've never been to Halloween Horror Nights, it is crowded. And you are not going to get through all the houses in one night unless you buy the express passes, which are pretty expensive. So if you don't want to do that, having a plan of attack and what houses you're going to hit in what order is definitely recommended. I want to call out the fact that our previous speculation maps, we were pretty close on a lot of this stuff, so I'm pretty happy about that. It looks like a lot of the information that's been floating around, a lot of our research, and the way we were thinking about things, I feel like we were close on a lot of this. And one of the biggest things was we were predicting more IPs this year. We were hoping for maybe 5 or 6. We ended up getting about 4. Now, when I say IPs, I don't usually include things like Universal Monsters. Some people do, some people don't. We just don't include it. It's sort of Universal, it's owned by Universal, so we kind of leave that off the IP list. But this year we're getting 4 IPs, which is more than we've gotten in the last couple of years. We're getting Chucky, we're getting Last of Us, Stranger Things, and The Exorcist. Some of the IPs that we didn't get were Evil Dead. Once again, didn't make the cut. They've been speculating that one for years, just hasn't come. And we didn't get a dual Blumhouse attraction this year. We were kind of predicting that we were going to get maybe a Blumhouse dual house with Megan in it, but doesn't seem like that's happening. And we thought maybe we weren't getting a Blumhouse at all until we realized that Exorcist this year is not the original Exorcist. It's actually based on Exorcist Believer, which is an upcoming movie that's going to be released. And that is a Blumhouse production. All right, let's start out with the first house. We have this one situated in the A location in the park on our map. This is Universal Monsters Unmasked. This particular location is where Universal Monsters Legends Collide were last year. Also, Beetlejuice has been in this particular house. Now this year, Universal Monsters Unmasked is all about the catacombs in Paris, which sounds really cool to me. There's going to be awesome creatures in there like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and even the Invisible Man. I don't know how they're going to pull the Invisible Man off. Sounds pretty cool to me, though, if they can do it right. This sounds like a really cool house. I love that Universal keeps pumping up this sort of property that they're building. They're doing, obviously, the Universal classic monsters and things in Epic Universe. They continue to add those things to their parks. I love it. I'm hoping for more. So this year, the Catacombs sounds pretty spooky. Sounds like it's going to be another awesome house. The next house that we have in the B location is The Last of Us. This house is based on the game, not the Netflix show, so we're expecting to see a lot of the things from the game, which is going to be really cool. I think this is going to be one of the biggest houses of the year for sure. It's located in B, which is where The Weeknd was in previous years. So we've had some really good houses in that particular location. Last of Us, I think, is going to be really cool and interesting. The description says don't make a sound if you want to survive the clickers and the hunters. So I don't know, maybe it's going to be like a quiet, spooky haunted house. I don't know, it sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to see what they do with it. Way over on the far end of Universal Studios in location C, which is where they've had Descendants of Destruction. Puppet Theater has been there in the past. We're predicting that Darkest Deal is going to be in this location, which is a new house for this year, a new property. We haven't really seen anything about it in the past, and it talks about being some sort of musician that sells his soul to the devil to become this famous musician, and apparently now devil wants his due, wants his soul, and so he's coming for it. Obviously the musician doesn't want to give it up, so sounds like a pretty cool house. Could be a lot of like music in there. I'm kind of excited for it. Historically, the location that it's in, though, the houses haven't been amazing. Some of them have been okay, so I don't know if it's going to be great or not. Let's talk about the next one in the D location over there by Men in Black. Again, this particular house hasn't had a lot of amazing attractions there. Last year was Bugs Eaten Alive, which was actually a pretty cool house. It was one of the more popular houses, surprisingly, because it was an original IP. It was an original property. This year, it's going to be Dr. Oddfellows. Now, the interesting thing about Dr. Oddfellows is it looks like Dr. Oddfellow is basically the icon for this year. Dr. Oddfellow hasn't been seen in a long time, but everything around the scare zones, which we'll talk a lot about in a little bit, is all about Dr. Oddfellows. It's basically like a historical track of his life, all the different scare zones. Starting in the very early days where he tries to harness the power of the Zodiac and then goes all the way through to the Vampires Festival in 1969. So Dr. Oddfellow's haunted house, I think you're going to see a lot of Dr. Oddfellows. We've even got the scare zone for Dr. Oddfellow. I think he's going to be the icon. Maybe he's going to be hanging out there like the Pumpkin Lord was last year in that particular space. Sounds like it's going to be a lot about him. The house itself, don't know what to expect. Sounds pretty interesting. You're going to kind of go in. A lot of twisted oddities is the word that they use. So I don't know if it's going to be some sort of like weird museum or some sort of like circus element, but could be pretty cool. I'm excited. Dr. Oddfellow is making a comeback. All right, over in the E location by Fast and Furious, this is going to be Chucky. Previous years, last year it was Blumhouse, which is the first time it was used, which was the Blumhouse Black Phone, Freaky Friday. That was a really cool house. So I think they're setting it up. There was 2 houses in that location. This year there's only 1, which is Chucky. So that means they have a lot of space to play with. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it. Chucky obviously been a staple in Halloween Horror Nights in the past. You've got the meet and greet opportunities. They also have a special Cabana Bay sort of photo illusion that you can take place in. You got to go all the way over to the Cabana Bay Hotel to do it, but sounds interesting. They're amping up Chucky. Chucky's making a comeback on TV and movies, and so I'm kind of excited to see what they do with this house. I'm expecting a lot of creepy little dolls in there trying to stab us. Now the next 2 locations, G and F, I am so excited for, probably the most excited. We've got a couple of cool houses. Let's talk about the first one, which is in F, which is Dueling Dragons. Yes, I said it right. Dueling Dragons is making a comeback. We haven't seen it since Islands of Adventure closed down, got rid of it, replaced it with Hagrid's, which is a better attraction, but I loved Dueling Dragons, so I think it's awesome that they're actually bringing it back. I'm guessing this is going to be some sort of medieval times type house. It talks about Merlin turning these 2 warlocks that tried to steal his spell books into these powerful dragons, and we apparently get caught up in some epic battle between them. So I think it's gonna be really cool if we could see these giant dragon heads battling each other. Maybe there's gonna be fire. I don't know, but it sounds exciting, and I love Dueling Dragons. I miss the roller coaster, so I think it's really cool that they're bringing that back in. And then right next to it, Stranger Things. Based on Stranger Things Season 4, definitely going to expect to see some Vecna in there, which he's a really cool character. That season of Stranger Things was awesome. There was a lot of really cool music and slow motion running in that particular season. So I'm expecting some cool music, seeing that creepy, disgusting Vecna character in there. Should be exciting. We haven't seen Stranger Things since a couple of years ago, so I'm excited to have it back. There's only one more season of Stranger Things left, so we gotta soak it up while we can. And those two particular locations is where Dead Man's Wake was and Fiesta de Chupacabras. Dead Man's Wake was one of the best houses that I have ever seen in history. Anywhere I've ever been, it was absolutely phenomenal. So I'm expecting a lot of great things from Dueling Dragons or Stranger Things. Not sure which will be in which location because it's like this one giant house, but I'm excited about it. There's lots of space in there for them to do cool things. We'll see. Moving on to location H, this is where Halloween was and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which are two really big popular haunted houses. So I thought for sure they were going to put some sort of big house in there like Last of Us or Stranger Things, but apparently it's going to be the Yeti attraction, the Yeti House, Yeti Campground Kills. We were predicting another cold house, and I'm going to assume that the Yeti is going to be it. We thought for sure it was going to be where Dead Man's Wake was last year because of being a previous cold house, but it sounds like it's going to be where Halloween was instead. That is assuming it is a cold house. I don't know what else it could be. Yeti Campground. I'm assuming it's going to be Frozen. Yetis are abominable snowmen, so I'm going to assume it's a cold house. They have done Yeti houses in the past, and they were cold houses. So I'm excited for this one because those tend to be my favorite, where there's like ice and snow and it just feels all frosty in there. I'm excited about this particular house, and it's in a really good location. So maybe it's going to be really awesome like Dead Man's Wake. I don't think they were expecting Dead Man's Wake to be as popular as it was last year. Moving on to location I, let's talk about Blumhouse now. We're going to be getting The Exorcist. This is the Blumhouse attraction this year, as I mentioned earlier, but it's not Exorcist the original, it's Exorcist Believer, which is a sequel to the original film. It talks about two missing girls that have reappeared, and evil sort of follows them wherever they go, which is interesting because last year they actually had two little girls sort of dressed up at one of the scare zones. They were in like all white, and they looked sort of like dead and very like wide-eyed, and they were kind of padding around this particular scare zone in the very front of the park last year. I don't know if they were supposed to be the same thing or not, but they are sort of like all dressed in white in this movie, and so I wonder if that was like a teaser for something they were trying to bring for through this year. It's kind of cool. This location is where Spirits of the Coven was last year, and then Ghostbusters was there. Don't know what to expect. Spirits of the Coven was just okay, not really a great house. And I'm still confused about the whole Blumhouse because we were really predicting that maybe Megan would make an appearance. There was an official tweet on Reddit that talked about it. So maybe we'll get some surprises, I don't know, at Halloween Horror Nights 32. But for now, Exorcist, that's going to be the Blumhouse one that we were talking about, so excited to see it. And the last house is in location J, over there right in the front of the park by Despicable Me. This particular one is what we were kind of predicting, that maybe some sort of like demonic thing was going to be there. Devil Dogs was floating around out there in the ether, maybe Demon Slayer, which would have been really cool. I would have loved to have seen that. But it's been revealed that it's called Blood Moon Dark Offerings, some sort of like colonial era village. And then these moon worshippers and sacrifices and all this, and you basically have to try to get through this thing without getting sacrificed yourself. I don't know, that particular location, Hellblock Horror was there last year, which really was not good. I did not like that house. I thought it was bad. It was a last minute kind of thrown together house. But they did also have Universal Monsters Bride of Frankenstein there, which was actually a really cool house. So they could do something neat with it. So those are all the houses. Man, there are a ton of great houses. They're all spread out in the park though, so I feel like it's going to be hard to navigate and find which way you want to go, which is also good because it kind of disperses the crowd. But as you know, when you go into Universal, you either take a right or you go straight. And there's a lot of really cool houses if you go straight, but there's a lot of really interesting ones to the far right too, so I don't know, it's going to be a tough one. We're also not 100% sure on the entrances to the ones on the far right because of the fact that the DreamWorks Pictures land is basically being constructed. Usually there's two house locations, entrances back there where Curious George was. Now that's all under construction, so I have a feeling that one of those or two of those might move to a different spot, potentially where the parade for Mardi Gras sort of comes in and out there, kind of by the horror makeup show. Or maybe one of them will move further over by Men in Black. I don't know. So as soon as we start to see more construction, we'll figure that out. Now let's move on to the scare zones. These are pretty exciting this year. Usually they're pretty cool every year, but this year it's really interesting because they're all connected to Dr. Oddfellows. And if you follow the history of Dr. Oddfellows, there's all these sort of things that have happened over the decades. And it all starts out with the Zodiac. So the very first scare zone there, when you walk into the right, is gonna be the Dark Zodiac. Dark Zodiac, really don't know much about it. This is a big scare zone. It's a really long scare zone. There's usually a lot of stuff happening in that space. I think it's the biggest scare zone of all, except for maybe the one in the back by New York. So the Dark Zodiac is where Dr. Oddfellows basically gets his powers. He used to draw these like weird Zodiac-like symbols on his face to try to extract the powers of the Zodiac and gain immortality. So that's gonna be really cool. And then moving on a little bit further over to the L scare zone there, that's gonna be the Jungle of Doom. And if you follow the story, Dr. Oddfellows, again, 1920s, he ventured into this ancient jungle and found some sort of skull that gave him all this power. So again, moving from the Zodiac, the beginning of Dr. Oddfellow, over into 1920s with the Jungle of Doom. And then in the very next scare zone, as you continue to travel around the park to M, that's where Shipyard 32 Horrors Unhinged will be, which again, Dr. Oddfellows in the 1940s basically brought a bunch of crates to this sort of shipyard. There was a bunch of monsters in these crates and they sort of escaped from the crates, and as you can imagine, created all sorts of havoc, and all these different crates had Zodiac symbols on them. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And just as a bit of trivia, right before that, this is around the time when Dr. Oddfellow actually killed off Jack the Clown, which is actually where Jack the Clown became immortal, and so thus the rivalry began. So it's going to be interesting. I wonder if Jack the Clown's actually going to make an appearance because of that rivalry and that hatred that the two have between each other. And then as we move all the way over to Scare Zone N there, we've got Vamp 69 Summer of Blood. And this is obviously a big sort of 60s music festival. Apparently Dr. Oddfellows in the 60s got really into vampires and created this like vampire following. And basically this music festival, he's gonna unleash his entire horde of vampires on all of us unsuspecting concert goers. So again, this is another really big scare zone. Again, we went around the park. They already have the stage set up. It looks pretty cool. I'm kind of excited about this one. I think it could be neat. Hopefully it's very interactive. They've had some interactive ones in the past. Last year was kind of a dud. I didn't really think it was that great. 2 years ago, they had that sort of like weird futuristic stage thing, but it was actually pretty cool because they were doing a lot of neat things from the stage and getting people involved. Last year's was like this candy carnival thing in a small town. It was kind of lame. And then circling all the way back to Scare Zone O there is Dr. Oddfellows. And this is Dr. Oddfellows' collection of horror. Definitely think it's going to be sort of that entrance scare zone right there where Puppet Lord has been in the previous years. So usually like an icon is there of some kind. Usually very like Halloween focused, pumpkins and things. So I think collection of horror, there could be some really cool like twisted creatures, and I don't know, it's going to be pretty neat. I'm excited about it, and I think it makes sense to put it right there in the sort of front of the park, since basically Dr. Oddfellow is a lot of the Halloween Horror Nights this year. So those are all of the scare zones. Let's talk a little bit about the shows that we know about. Again, we still don't know for sure what the water show is going to be. Maybe there won't be one this year. They haven't announced it yet. They've been doing a lot of work on the waterscape and trying to like create this new thing out of it. So maybe there won't be one this year. But if there is, we're just calling it Vampires for now. That's the one thing that really hasn't been announced. Hoping that more information comes soon, but we don't know yet. And then of course, we have Nightmare Fuel coming back. That's way over there in location 8 there, the big giant amphitheater. Everybody knows that's where it's going to be. But it's called Nightmare Fuel Revenge Dream this year. Expect more of the same, the things that we've had in previous years. Lots of flames and explosions and acrobatics and lots of cool stuff. And then the last thing in location 9 I'm super excited about because it is the return of the Death Eaters. Death Eaters have not historically been part of Halloween Horror Nights. In fact, Diagon Alley really hasn't been involved in Halloween Horror Nights. In previous years, it has been dead in there. No one in there. Like, no one goes in there. There's nothing to do in there other than just the Wizarding World stuff. And so it's actually been really good to go to Wizarding World during Halloween Horror Nights because there's nobody there. You can ride all the rides with no wait times. You can stop and get the food, do all the shopping, and not have to wait for anything. But this year, they've actually brought the Death Eaters over from Islands of Adventure, which is where they have historically hung out. over into Diagon Alley for the first time, and so I'm excited about that. They were test running it a little bit earlier in July, and now officially they're going to be part of it, and they're bringing them into that space, and I'm excited to see them because it kind of opens up some real cool possibilities of bringing the Wizarding World area into Halloween Horror Nights in future years, and the Death Eaters are just really cool, so I'm excited about that. So that's all we've got for you. I do want to throw out some credits. They are down in the description. We get our information from a lot of different sources, things that we've just researched on our own, things that people have speculated. Don't forget to check out our other video we just did yesterday where we walked around the park and we showed all the potential locations and all the cool construction stuff that's happening. We will do more construction videos as it gets closer to the actual opening night in September. And we will probably update our map one final time with our last speculation as to where the locations are going to be if we see anything change or more information comes out. And then once Halloween Horror Nights launches, we will definitely do our final official map of where everything is based on what we saw when we were at Halloween Horror Nights on opening night. If you're going to be at Halloween Horror Nights, we will hopefully see you there. We'll be there on opening night. I couldn't be more excited for yet another awesome lineup of houses and scare zones and shows. It is going to be a blast. I haven't talked anything about the food booths. There are a ton of those too. Don't forget, lots of food booths. We'll show some of those in our next construction update and what to expect. Food is probably one of the best parts of Halloween Horror Nights. There's tons of awesome stuff there. If we've left anything out or you have more information for us, put it down in the comments. Let us know. I would love to add it to our future videos. Be sure to check out all of our other content, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification so you know when the next video drops. Until we see you next time, the Noble Way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.